In this video, we will understand computer architecture. Computer architecture deals with the functional behavior of a computer system as viewed by a programmer. It can also be described as the logical structure of the system unit that housed electronic components. The computer architecture forms the backbone for building successful computer systems. The first computer architecture was introduced in 1970. Components of computer. A computer consists of following three main components: input output unit, central processing unit, memory unit. Input unit. The computer accepts coded information through input unit by the user. It is a device that is used to give required information to the computer, for example, keyboard, mouse, etc. An input unit performs the following functions. It accepts the instructions and data from the user. It converts these instructions and data in computer in acceptable format. It supplies the converted instructions and data to the computer system for further processing. Output unit. This unit sends the processed results to the user. It is mainly used to display the desired result to the user as per input instruction. For example, monitor, printer, plotter, etc. The following functions are performed by an output unit. It accepts the results produced by the computer, which are in coded form and hence cannot be easily understood by user. It converts these coded results to human acceptable form. It supplies the converted results to the user. Central Processing Unit, CPU. It consists a set of registers, arithmetic logic unit and control unit which together interpret and execute instructions in assembly language. The primary functions of the CPU are as follows. The CPU transfers instructions and input data from main memory to registers, that is internal memory. The CPU executes the instructions in the stored sequence. When necessary, CPU transfers output data from registers to main memory. Central Processing Unit is often called the brain of computer. The CPU is fabricated as a single integrated circuit, IC, and is also known as microprocessor. A CPU controls all the internal and external devices and performs arithmetic and logic operations. The CPU consists of following main subsystems. Arithmetic Logic Unit, ALU. ALU contains the electronic circuitry that executes all arithmetic and logical operations on the available data. ALU uses registers to hold the data that is being processed. Most ALUs can perform the following operations. Logical operations like AND, NOT, or exclusive OR. Arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Bit shifting operations like shifting or rotating a word by a specified number of bit to the left or right with or without sign extension. Comparison operations like equal, greater than, less than, not equal. Registers. These are used to quickly accept, store, and transfer data and instructions that are being used immediately by the CPU. These registers are the top of the memory hierarchy and are the fastest way for the system to manipulate data. The number and size of registers vary from processor to processor. Control unit. Control unit coordinates with the input and output devices of a computer. It directs the computer to carry out stored program instructions by communicating with the ALU and the registers. It organizes the processing of data and instructions. The basic function of control unit is to fetch the instructions stored in the main memory, identify the operations and the devices involved in it, and accordingly generate control signals. Microprocessor. It is the controlling element in a computer system and is sometimes referred to as the chip. Microprocessor is the main hardware that drives the computer. It is a large printed circuit board which is used in all electronic systems such as computer, calculator, digital system, etc. The speed of CPU depends upon the type of microprocessor used. Intel 4004 was the first microprocessor made by Intel in 1971 by scientist Ted Hoff and engineer Federico Fagin. Some of the popular microprocessors are Intel Core i7, Dual Core, Pentium 4, etc. Memory unit. This unit is responsible to store programs or data on a temporary or permanent basis. It has primary memory, that is main memory, and secondary memory, that is auxiliary memory. The input data which is to be processed is brought into main memory before processing. Another kind of memory is referred to as secondary memory of a computer system. This unit is used to permanently store data, programs, and output. This unit does not deal directly with CPU. Motherboard. The main circuit board contained in any computer is called a motherboard. It is also known as the main board or logic board or system board or planar board. All the other electronic devices and circuits of computer system are attached to this board like CPU, ROM, RAM, expansion slots, PCI slots, and USB ports. It also includes controllers for devices like the hard drive, DVD drive, keyboard, and mouse. In other words, motherboard makes everything in a computer work together. Various components on motherboard are as follows: CMOS battery, BIOS chip, fan, expansion slot, SMPS, PCI slot, processor chip, buses, interconnection of units. CPU sends data, instructions, and information to the components inside the computer as well as to the peripheral devices attached to it. A bus is a set of wires used for interconnection where each wire can carry one bit of data. In other words, bus is a set of electronic signal pathways that allows information and signals to travel between components inside or outside of a computer. A computer bus can be divided into two types: internal bus and external bus. Internal bus. The internal bus connects components inside the motherboard like CPU and system memory. It is also called the system bus. Internal bus includes following buses: the command to access the memory or the input-output devices is carried by the control bus. The address of input-output devices or memory is carried by the address bus. The data to be transferred is carried by the data bus. External bus. It connects the different external devices like peripherals, expansion slots, input-output ports, and drive connections to the rest of computer. It is also referred to as the expansion bus. Instruction cycle. It represents the sequence of events that takes place as an instruction is read from memory and executed. A simple instruction cycle consists of the following steps: fetching the instruction from the memory, decoding the instruction for operation, executing the instruction, storing in memory. In above steps, step 1 and 2 instructions are same and known as fetch cycle, and step 3 and 4 instructions are different and known as execute cycle. Instruction format. Computer understands instructions only in terms of zeros and ones, which is called the machine language. A computer program is a set of instructions that describes the steps to be performed for carrying out a computational task. The processor must have two inputs: instructions and data. The instructions tell the processor what actions are needed to be performed on the data. An instruction is further divided into two parts: operation and operand. The operation represents action that the processor must execute, and operand defines the parameters of the action and depends on the operation. Let's practice some questions of computer architecture. Question 1. What is the main function of the input-output unit? Options are store data, process data, accept and display information, control the CPU, manage memory. Correct answer option is C, accept and display information. Because the input-output unit's main function is to facilitate communication between the computer and external devices by receiving data from input devices and displaying information on output devices. The other functions such as data storage, processing, controlling the CPU, and managing memory are handled by other components like the memory unit, CPU, and control unit. Question 2. Which component is often referred to as the brain of the computer? Options are memory unit, input unit, output unit, central processing unit, CPU, motherboard. Correct answer option is D, central processing unit CPU. Because the CPU is referred to as the brain of the computer because it performs most of the processing inside the system, executing instructions and managing the flow of data. Other components like the memory unit or input-output devices assist the CPU but don't handle the core computational tasks. Question 3. What is the primary purpose of the control unit? Options are perform arithmetic operations, store data, fetch and decode instructions, manage input-output devices, all of the above. Correct answer option is C, fetch and decode instructions. Because the control unit manages the execution of instructions in a computer. It fetches instructions from memory, decodes them, and then directs other components to execute those instructions. It does not perform arithmetic operations, store data, or manage input-output devices directly, which are handled by other components. Question 4. What type of memory is referred to as secondary memory? Options are RAM, cache, hard drive, registers, ROM. Correct answer option is C, hard drive. Because secondary memory refers to storage devices used for long-term data retention. The hard drive is a common example of secondary memory. It provides large storage capacity for data, unlike primary memory, which is volatile and used for immediate data processing. The other options, RAM, cache, registers, ROM, are forms of primary memory or temporary storage. Question 5. What is the function of the motherboard? Options are store data, connect all components of the computer, execute instructions, manage power supply. None of the above. Correct answer option is B, connect all components of the computer. Because the motherboard serves as the main circuit board that connects all of a computer's components, such as the CPU, memory, and input-output devices, allowing them to communicate with each other. While it plays a role in power distribution and data transfer, its primary function is connecting the components, not executing instructions or storing data. Question 6. Which bus carries the address of input-output devices or memory? Options are data bus, control bus, address bus, expansion bus, internal bus. Correct answer option is C, address bus. Because the address bus is responsible for carrying memory addresses or addresses of input-output devices to specify where data should be read from or written to. The data bus carries the actual data and the control bus sends signals to manage the operation of the CPU and other components. Question 7. What is the first step in the instruction cycle? Options are decoding the instruction, fetching the instruction, executing the instruction, storing in memory. None of the above. Correct answer option is B, fetching the instruction. Because the first step in the instruction cycle is to fetch the instruction from memory. This involves retrieving the next instruction that the CPU needs to execute. Once the instruction is fetched, it is decoded and then executed. This order is critical as fetching is the initial step that prepares the CPU for decoding and execution. Question 8. Which of the following microprocessors was the first made by Intel? Options are Intel Core i7, Pentium 4, Intel 4004, Dual Core. None of the above. Correct answer option is C, Intel 4004. Because the Intel 4004 was the first microprocessor created by Intel, introduced in 1971. It was a groundbreaking chip that marked the beginning of the microprocessor era. The other options, Intel Core i7, Pentium 4 Dual Core, are much later generations of Intel processors. Question 9. What is the primary role of registers in the CPU? Options are store data permanently, execute instructions, quickly accept, store, and transfer data, manage input-output operations, control the power supply. Correct answer option is C, quickly accept, store, and transfer data. Because registers are small, high-speed storage locations within the CPU that hold data temporarily during processing. They are used for quick access to data being manipulated by the CPU. Unlike memory, which stores data long-term, registers store data temporarily and allow fast data transfer and processing. Question 10. Which of the following operations is not performed by the ALU? Options are addition, logical operations, data storage, bit shifting operations, comparison operations. Correct answer option is C, data storage. Because the arithmetic logic unit performs arithmetic operations, addition, subtraction, logical operations, and bit shifting operations. It also handles comparison operations. However, data storage is not a function of the ALU. Data storage is handled by the memory, RAM, hard drive, etc. Question 11. What does the term bus refer to in computer architecture? Options are a type of memory, a set of wires for data transfer, a processing unit, a storage device. None of the above. Correct answer option is B, a set of wires for data transfer. Because in computer architecture, a bus refers to a set of electrical wires or channels that carry data between the CPU, memory, and other components of the computer. It facilitates communication and data transfer between different parts of the system. Question 12. Which component is responsible for generating control signals in a computer? Options are ALU, registers, control unit, input-output unit, microprocessor. Correct answer option is C, control unit. Because the control unit is responsible for generating control signals that direct the operation of the CPU and other components, such as fetching and decoding instructions. It doesn't perform arithmetic or logical operations nor handle input-output directly. Question 13. What is the main function of the BIOS chip on the motherboard? Options are store user data, control the CPU, Initialize hardware during booting? Manage power supply? None of the above. Correct answer option is C. Initialize hardware during booting. Because the BIOS is responsible for initializing and testing the computer's hardware during the boot process and providing a basic set of instructions for the computer to start. It ensures that essential components like the CPU, memory, and storage are working before handing control over to the operating system. Question 14. What is the purpose of the CMOS battery on the motherboard? Options are power the CPU, store BIOS settings, provide backup power to RAM, control input, output devices, none of the above. Correct answer option is B, store BIOS settings. Because the CMOS battery provides power to the motherboard's CMOS chip, which stores the BIOS settings such as date, time, and hardware configurations when the computer is powered off. It ensures that these settings are preserved even without external power. Question 15. What is the purpose of the instruction format in a computer? Options are to store data, to define how instructions are structured, to manage memory, to control input-output devices. None of the above. Correct answer option is B, to define how instructions are structured. Because the instruction format determines how instructions are represented and structured within the computer's memory. It specifies the opcode, operands, and other components of an instruction. This structure allows the CPU to correctly interpret and execute each instruction. Question 16. Which of the following is not a function of the CPU? Options are fetching instructions, executing instructions, storing data permanently, transferring data to memory, controlling input-output devices. Correct answer option is C, storing data permanently. Because the CPU is responsible for fetching, executing, and transferring data to and from memory, as well as controlling input-output operations. However, storing data permanently is the role of secondary storage devices like hard drives or SSDs, not the CPU. The CPU handles temporary data processing, not long-term storage. Question 17. What is the role of the expansion slots on a motherboard? Options are store data, connect additional hardware components, manage power supply, control the CPU. None of the above. Correct answer option is B, connect additional hardware components. Because the expansion slots on a motherboard allow you to add additional hardware components such as graphics cards, sound cards, or network cards to the system. These slots provide the interface needed to connect these components to the motherboard. Question 18. What is the purpose of the fetch cycle in the instruction cycle? Options are to execute the instruction, to store the result, to retrieve the instruction from memory, to decode the instruction. None of the above. Correct answer option is C, to retrieve the instruction from memory. Because the fetch cycle is the first step in the instruction cycle, where the CPU retrieves the next instruction from memory. After fetching the instruction, the CPU decodes it and then executes it, which involves processing or storing the data. Question 19. Which of the following is a characteristic of the microprocessor? Options are, it is a single integrated circuit. It is used only in computers. It cannot perform arithmetic operations. It is slower than the CPU. None of the above. Correct answer option is A. It is a single integrated circuit. Because a microprocessor is a single integrated circuit that contains the core processing unit of the computer, including the ALU, control unit, and registers. It is responsible for executing instructions, but is not slower than the CPU. It is a part of the CPU, and it is not limited to use only in computers. Question 20. What is the main function of the data bus? Options are carry control signals, carry memory addresses, transfer data between components, manage power supply. None of the above. Correct answer option is C. Transfer data between components. Because the data bus is used to transfer data between the different components of the computer, such as the CPU, memory, and input-output devices. The address bus carries memory addresses and the control bus carries control signals, but the data bus specifically handles the movement of data.